Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing great. The social distancing, I hope it's going great and that you're not insane yet. Today's video is going to be a DIY and we're going to be DIYing 4 tops and they all involve no sewing whatsoever. So some of you have been requesting a no-sew DIY, so I decided I'd come through with 4 of them. So I'm really excited for this video. Let's get right into it. That way you can have some nice quarantining clothes. First things first, I'm going to draw a line to crop my t-shirt. So you can wear your t-shirt and measure exactly how long you want this to be. If you want this really high up and have your nipples gone to the wind, it's up to you, baby girl. It's your life. You do whatever you need to do to cope. And also along the top, I am drawing a line as high up as I possibly can get. That's because I want to maximize the fabric I'm using. And I also curve the line and it came to the sleeves. And I find this essential when making off-shoulder tops because if you draw just a straight line, it's going to be very difficult to just fold things in and put the elastic through. So I recommend the curving thing. And once you have both lines drawn, you're just going to cut along the lines. Do not throw away the bottom bit of the fabric. We are going to use it to make another top. So now we're also going to cut out the off-shoulder bit. That way we can be sexy in our quarantine tops. Let me tell you, after this quarantine, we're going to be looking fire. We're gonna have some fire fits. That's the plan. So once the off-shoulder shape is cut out, you're going to have something that looks like this. You're going to turn it inside out. That way you can create a casing for your elastic. So with a piece of chalk, I drew a line just to remind myself to leave a gap because you really don't want to forget to leave a gap when gluing everything down. And now all I'm doing is I'm taking some fabric glue and gluing down the fabric. I'm making sure the space I'm leaving is enough for my elastic to pass through. That's one thing you don't want. You don't want to create a home the elastic won't fit into. You want her to be settled. She's social distancing, so she needs all the food, all the attention, all the love she can get inside the casing. So just make sure it's sufficient enough for your elastic to pass through and sit comfortably without twisting and turning. So as you can see me do, I'm just gluing along the edge and applying this glue generously and then holding it down for a few seconds. That way she can stay in place. She feels settled. She's not scared to commit. We need her to be comfortable to commit. So just hold her down, press her down, do whatever you need to do to cope. Just make sure the casing is staying down. And I recommend you do this in bits. That's because if you just do the entire length and glue it down, it's going to have some bits just come up. So just do this in sections. That way every bit is nice and glued down. No one is holding around. Everyone settle down, okay? And you're going to repeat the same process along the top as well. Don't forget to leave your gap. It is essential. If you forget, you will literally want to die. So I recommend you don't forget. And now you're going to let it dry for 24 hours. And then you're going to measure an elastic around your waist. And you're going to fit this through the bottom elastic casing. That way you can have a nice and snug fit with your top. So what I'm doing is I'm pinning one end of the elastic to my t-shirt, and then since I didn't have a safety pin, I created a small hole that way I could pass my hairpin through. So if you don't have safety pins, you can use hairpins to just guide your elastic. You can use whatever you have, girl. It's up to you. Improvise, make it work. We are living in hard times, so whatever you need to do is what you've got to do. So all I'm doing now is I'm guiding the elastic with my hairpin, making sure she's sliding through that casing. She's okay. She's happy, no one's sad, and once it comes out the other end, you're basically done with the bottom bit. So I just took out the hairpin. That way I could commit everyone together and the relationship would work. And now all I'm doing is I'm going to pin the 2 ends together using the pin, and then I'm just going to shush out the elastic, and I'm also making sure nothing is twisted. You don't want people crossing each other inside this casing. You want them living peacefully because it's quarantine time, as we said, and we don't want any fights, okay? So make sure everyone is nice and shushed out, they're comfortable, and you're going to take out the pin because now it's time to close off your elastic. So since we're not doing any sewing, you're going to create a knot to tie the 2 ends together and make this as tight as you can possibly make it. I want you to pull and tug and stress this knot so much so that she does not budge. You want to make sure she's loyal, she's not talking to other people, she's committed to you. So once everything is nice and tight and you're sure the knot is not going anywhere, just cut off the excess bit of elastic and then you're going to put her back into the casing to make sure she's nice and at home before closing off the gap. So as you can see, I'm making sure she's in there, she's shushed out, she's relaxed, she's comfortable, she's happy, she's ready to commit. And once I'm satisfied with the elastic, I'm going to glue the gap shut. That way we have no peeking elastic and she's not telling our business to other people. So a trick with gluing down the edge, you have to pull out the elastic so that the fabric lays flat and just press it, hold it for a few seconds, and you'll have no problems with this at all. So once everyone is nice and sealed, as you can see, the gap no longer exists. Our problems are solved. We are geniuses. So you're going to repeat the same thing along the top edge, the exact same thing, and then you're just going to leave this to dry for 2 hours and you have your fabulous off-shoulder top. Look at that, literally minimal effort. I love how this looks. I am such a fan of off-shoulder crop tops, and this one is beautiful if I do say so myself. Super easy to make, and I love how it turned out. I hope you do too. So now it's time to move on to the second top. So remember the bottom bit of fabric. I hope you haven't made a bed sheet out of it. We need to use it. So this top is super simple to make. All I'm doing is I'm measuring my top. It was about 18.5 inches. So I found the midpoint of that and I'm just going to draw a straight line through that point just to make sure I'm splitting the top equally in half. Once I have my line drawn, I'm just going to take a pair of scissors and cut through the line and you're basically done with this top. So all I'm doing now is I'm just opening her up, and since this is stretchy fabric, I'm going to stretch it just to make sure I'm maximizing her to her full potential. And once that's done, you're just going to knot this around your body and you have a beautiful tie front crop top. I absolutely love this. I think it looks fabulous with high-waisted jeans. I can imagine throwing a denim jacket on top of this and I have a fire outfit. Let me tell you, this quarantine fits. Someone better come see me in my house because we are slaying the hell out of this. So now that that's done, it's time to move on to making our last two final tops. I'm going to be using an XXL t-shirt. For the previous DIY, I used a small, and this time I wanted that extra room in case we get a food baby when we're binging TV the entire day, because we're going to be eating a lot during this period. I just needed the space and I wanted my tops to accept me. I don't want judgment for my tops, so I chose an XXL for this. It's a men's t-shirt. I got it for $5 and I love the yellow, in case I did not mention that before. So it's time to make a beautiful ruched top and I hope you love this. So I'm doing the same thing I did before. I'm cropping my t-shirt, so I just marked the point I wanted my t-shirt to reach and I'm going to draw a straight line across that point. Once I had my line, I just cut through the line. That way I could divide my shirt into two pieces. I'd have a top piece and a bottom piece. Throw away the bottom piece. You do not need it. I'm kidding. Please keep it. We are going to make another top. So now to work on the top bit, I'm going to stretch out the bottom just to make sure she has that extra room and the fraying. Honestly, t-shirt material doesn't fray, but the stretching just helps it roll up nicely and it looks more finished. And now it's time to get rid of that crew neck kind of collar. I wanted this to have a more dainty, feminine, beautiful collar. So I decided I'd get rid of the bulky collar. And to do this, I just cut around it with a pair of scissors. And once she was gone, her contract was over. She was no longer needed at this job. It's time to turn this inside out. That way we can work on finishing off the edges. So I was going to leave the neckline like this, but I decided I'd fold it in and glue it down. That way I could create a more finished kind of neckline and things would look nice and professional. No one would know we did this in our basement. Everyone's abandoned us. We don't have friends. No one needs to know that. If we have fire outfits, no one will know that. So all I'm doing now is I'm just gluing along the edge and pressing down that edge. That way I can create that finished neckline, and this will take you a minute. You will get glue on your hands, you will get glue on your face, your couch, everything that you have not touched will have glue because you will be using a lot of fabric glue in this DIY. But I promise you it's so worth it. Just having that finished neckline is going to make you a proud mama or papa. So just get down to business, don't get tired. And all I'm doing is I'm gluing the edge and then pressing down that bit that's glued down just to make sure it stays in place. She's not upsetting anyone. She's paying her taxes. She's cooperating with the government. She's social distancing. I'm just making sure everyone is following the law. Okay, ma'am? So if you do get a bit of excess glue, do not be afraid to just wipe it off before it dries. That way everything is nice and neat. So just glue it in sections, go bit by bit. There is no rush. You literally have nowhere to be. So just take your time with this and make sure everything is nice and neat. This took me a while, I'm not going to lie, but after a while I had my nice and finished neckline, and as you can see, it's very neat. So now it's time to create casings for our ruching bit, and all I'm doing is I'm marking an inch on either side. I drew a line straight down the middle, and now I'm doing an inch on either side. And once I had my 1 inch on each side, I'm just going to draw 2 straight lines through both sides. That way I can create casings that are each an inch thick. Wow, that was a tongue twister. So now to create my string, I'm going to use the top bit from the off-shoulder t-shirt that I cut off. So as you can see, we are maximizing everything. So all I'm doing is I'm cutting out a rectangular piece that's going to form my casing. Actually, we're not making the ties yet, sorry. So all I'm doing is I'm going to make sure that this casing fits in the 1 inch on each side. So all I'm doing is I'm putting her in place, seeing if she's getting along with the in-laws. Before you marry someone, you have to know that they get along with everyone. So now I'm just making sure the casing is getting along. She's fine. She's ready to fit in. And mine was a bit big, but I decided I'd just trim it later on as I was gluing it down. And now all I'm doing is I'm splitting it into half. That way we can have 2 sides to our casing. So get rid of one casing for now. It's time to just make sure this one is committing and she's in place. So I'm just going to trim off the bottom bit just to make sure it's the same length as my t-shirt, and then I'm going to take my fabric glue and glue down one edge. So you see me do the same thing I've been doing the entire video. I'm taking a section, gluing it down, making sure she's in there, she's getting along with the family, and then I'm just making sure she stays in place. So doing this in sections definitely does help you stick everything together better, so I recommend doing so. And all I'm doing is I'm gluing the edge and then sticking her down, making sure she's ready to commit for life. That's basically my whole motto for this video. So just press down the edge, making sure she's there, she's happy, no one's complaining. I trimmed off the top bit because I had a bit of excess, so that's easy to take care of. And then you're going to take your fabric glue and glue down the other edge in the same way. So as I said, my piece was a bit bigger, so I needed to trim her down a bit just to make sure she was fitting in right. And I just did this by cutting off the excess fabric while following the line beneath. That was my guideline. And as you can see, she's now a perfect match. They matched on Tinder, and now it's time to go on a real date. So now we're gluing her down on the other side as well. And as you can see, there is a gap between the 2 edges you've glued down, and this is where your string is gonna go. So for this edge, it was easier to just glue down the entire edge and press it down once the glue was on, mostly because the other side was already glued down and everyone was nice and happy. So as you can see me do, I'm just pushing that side down, making sure she's happy. I also decided I wanted the top edge of the fabric not laying on the back because I noticed the fabric glue was seeping a bit. So make sure you're doing this when one edge is just on the table. Do not put them on top of each other. So now it's time for the other piece to join the family. She needs to be happy. And to do this, I just glued the edge of the previous strip, and I made sure this other strip sat right on top of her. So I'm taking my time, I'm making sure everyone's aligning, no one's breaking the law. We're not out here being thugs, okay? We are cooperating, we're getting along with each other, we're happy. So this was really easy to do. Honestly, this is easy to do, it's just time consuming because of all the gluing. I did get rid of the bottom bit because as you saw, it was a bit longer than I needed. And I'm now going to repeat the same thing along the other edge. I'm just going to put some glue on her, make sure she's stuck down, and you're basically done with making your casings. So just apply your fabric glue. You can listen to a podcast, drink some wine, 2 glasses of wine maybe. it's that time that you need to do what you need to do for self-care, so you can do whatever you need to do as you do this. And as you can see, all the edges are now stuck down, and we do have 2 casings within this. So you're going to leave that to dry while you make your strip of fabric that's going to be your string. And all I did was I cut out a piece of fabric that was about 1 inch thick, maybe 2 inches. I honestly just used my ruler as a measurement, and my string was as wide as my ruler. So once I had my straight line drawn, I just cut out the string, and this string was very, very long, and that is something I really liked because that meant I had excess string hanging off once everything was nice and tied. I cut off one edge just to open it up. That way I'd have an actual string that wasn't a loop. So now this step is not necessary. I just wanted my string to look neater, and all I'm doing is I'm making sure to glue down one edge and folding it in half. That way I can create a strip of fabric that's a bit more neater than if I left it like that. This step is totally optional. I just decided I was going to go the whole way. I have nothing else to do, so might as well take my time and make sure this looks fabulous. So all I'm doing to make sure my string does not try me later on and try to disrespect me, I'm gluing down one edge and pressing it down to join the other edge. My string was a bit uneven, which is fine because no one's going to see this anyway. It's going to be inside your casing for the most part. So just do this to the best of your ability. Glue down whatever needs to be glued down. Make sure everyone's cooperating, everyone's happy, no one's causing conflict, no one's talking to the police without your knowledge, okay? So make sure everyone is in check. And after some time of doing this, you will have a beautiful string that you'll be so glad you worked hard for. So once everything was nice and glued down, as you can see, I have a beautiful string, and this is what we're going to pass through our casing that we just made a few minutes ago. So to make sure my hairpin could go through, I poked a small hole with my pair of scissors, and I'm now using the hairpin to guide my string through the casing. Be extra careful with this, especially if your fabric glue is yet to completely dry. You don't want her embarrassing you in front of your friends, so make sure you're talking to her nice, make sure she's happy. So just be gentle with this and guide the string as gently as you can. So I'm just making sure the string comes out to one end, and as you can see, I'm pushing it through the other side, and this is why we made 2 casings. We want this to ruche up when you pull the string at the bottom, so just make sure you have 2 separate casings. And once the hairpin has guided the string, she has done her job, everyone's happy. We're going to make sure that everyone's nice and neat, and there we go. We're going to get rid of the hairpin. Her job is done. She has been of great service. We salute her. And now I'm just going to cut off that excess bit of fabric at the bottom at an angle, mostly because I wanted to get rid of that hole I made so that I could insert my hairpin, and it just gives the strings a nice finish, honestly. And you're going to leave this to dry for 24 hours, and once the 24 hours are up, you have a beautiful ruched top. This is fabulous. I am super impressed with how this turned out. I think it's such a fun way to add some oomph to a basic crop top. Look at that ruching. Look at that neckline, girl. I am so happy with this top, and I may have worn it about 50 times in the last 5 hours. That's how much I love it. Love it, love it, love it, and I hope you do too, and I hope you try to make it because, girl, you've got nothing else to do. So get out that fabric glue and make your very own ruche top. So now it's time to make the last top, and this is a tube top. Honestly, there's so many videos on how to make a tube top like this, but I've done this with so many tops, so I thought I'd include it in this video. And all I did is I found the midpoint of the bottom piece we got after cropping our t-shirt, and you're just going to draw a line through that midpoint, cut the line open, that way you can split your top into half. Only cut through the back layer because you want this tube top to cover the front, unless you don't want that, and that's up to you. So now all I'm doing is I'm making sure I have the midpoint of both sides, as you can see on camera, and I'm just going to draw a straight line to meet the side seams on both sides. Once I have my straight lines, I'm just going to cut through those 2 lines, that way I can divide my back piece into 4. Just make sure you're only cutting through the back piece because you do not want to have this kind of pattern at the front. Otherwise, nothing's gonna be covered up, girl, and we are not that kind of channel, okay? So once you have your 4 pieces, as you can see, we have a nice kind of situation. So I decided I'd extend my sides by 2 inches, mostly because this top was a bit big on me. So to make it fit you more snug, just make sure you're cutting the line deeper. It's all a matter of what you want. And once I'd done that on both sides, I found the midpoints of the 2 rectangles that where I could do triangles. I hope you're not confused. Just watch what I'm doing. I know it sounds confusing, but I promise you it's not. So all I'm doing is I'm drawing 2 rectangles on both, no, I'm drawing 2 triangles on both rectangles. That way we can get nice tie pieces that easily tie at the back. So this is me drawing the second triangle. So I just honestly eyeballed this. They don't have to be perfect. And you can see the 2 triangle shapes. And now we're going to cut them out. That way we can get 2 tie pieces that are fabulous. So taking your sweet time, you're just going to cut out what needs to be cut out. It is 2020. Anything that's toxic to you is getting the knife or the scissors in this case. So we're just cutting off what we do not need. We are cutting off the excess baggage. 2020 is about just being ourselves and living our life. So I'm getting rid of anything excessive in my life. Honestly, I'm doing too much. I'm just cutting off the excess fabric to make sure I have my 2 triangles. And once the excess fabric is cut off, you're going to have 2 beautiful ties, and you're going to repeat this on the other side. That way you have ties on both sides. And once you've done that, just stretch the fabric a bit. Test her a bit to make sure she's ready for the waters. Just stretch her, make sure she's nice and she's right. And once that's done, you have your tube top. And to wear this, you're just going to tie a pretty knot, tie both ties together. My knot was not pretty, but as long as it serves a purpose, that's all that matters. So all I'm doing is I'm joining 2 ties together, and that's basically it. You have a fabulous tube top. So I folded in mine at the bottom, mostly because it was a bit longer than I needed. I wanted her to be a bit cropped, show some skin because no one's seeing it. We are in quarantine. But that does not matter. That does not stop me, okay? So anyway, guys, that is it for this video. I hope you have 4 new fabulous tops to just rock that quarantine and after quarantine, girl. As I said, we're coming out with some flyer fits. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really hope you enjoyed that it was no-sew. It was a bit of a challenge to just do everything no-sew, but I really did enjoy it, and I'm so in love with the outcome of these tops, and I hope you are too. Anyway, guys, that's it from me today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to let you go back to binging Tiger King. If you've not watched that show, just go watch it and thank me later, because you will question everything that you've ever believed in your life. See you guys next time. Bye.